Now it's our turn to do the ripping. We're going to fight like hell.
Everybody in Washington, whether they want to admit it or not, knows that this president is right when it comes to tariffs and when it comes to trade. They just don't want to admit it now because it's President Trump who is saying that. In June of 1996, Nancy Pelosi spoke on the House floor. How far does
China have to go? How much more repression? How big a trade deficit and loss of jobs for the American worker? And how much more dangerous proliferation has to exist before members of this House of Representatives will say, I will not endorse the status quo. Right now, we have a $34 billion trade deficit with China. Is that reciprocal? Fact is that U.S.-China trade is a job loser. And if there's one message that I want our colleagues to understand today, to say to the President of the United States, do something about this U.S.-China trade relationship that is a job loser for the United States. And this brings us to the point that others have said, well, we can't isolate China. Do you think for 1 minute?
Those are the words of Nancy Pelosi in 1996. Well, President Trump is finally answering her call 27 years later. Nancy Pelosi can thank President Trump today for the 104% retaliatory tariff that will be going into effect on China.
I think they'll make a deal at some point. China will. They want to make a deal. They really do. They want to make a deal. They just don't know how to get it started because they're proud people.
The president also spoke to the acting president of South Korea this morning.
목표는 상호 간세를 아예 없애는 거고 그게 좀 어렵다면 일단 낮춰 나가는 건데 우리 내부를 위해서라도 미국 측 요구를 수용하는 게 좋아 보이는 부분도 있거든요.
Again, I hear the phones are ringing off the hook. There are foreign leaders who want to fly to Washington tonight and get on a plane to negotiate with this country. It shows you the rest of the world needs the United States of America to do business with. The president has detailed his calls with the leaders of Japan, in South Korea. We are going to prioritize our allies and our partners around the world first when it comes to these negotiations.
It's clear the president has found the world's attention with these tariffs. Is he considering at all potentially holding off on imposing some of them before the deadline or maybe later?
He said he's not considering an extension or a delay. I spoke to him before this briefing. That was not his mindset. And you said something very important, Elena, in your question. You said the president has captivated the attention of the world. Absolutely he has. And it's about time we have a president in the Oval Office who is putting the world on notice.
Today it was announced that China is reducing its currency. Did you see that? Big. In other words, they're going to make up for it. They got every trick in the book. I'll tell you, they are great. You got to hand it to them. They're manipulating their currency today as an offset against the tariffs. You're not supposed to do that. The game isn't supposed to be played that way.
It was a mistake for China to retaliate. The president, when America is punched, he punches back harder. That's why there will be 104% tariffs going into effect on China tonight at midnight.
China has to call first.
The Chinese want to make a deal, they just don't know how to do it.
What conditions might he consider lowering tariffs on China at this point?
It would be imprudent of me to tell you those conditions here from the podium.
A very, very special person. I've dealt with him for a long time, Benjamin Netanyahu. We appreciate you being here, and we are a friend of Israel, as you know.
You've been a remarkable friend of the State of Israel. You stand by us. You're standing with us. You are a great, great champion of our alliance. Mr. President, I want to first thank you for First, if I can mention tariffs, it's a subject of some interest today. I can tell you that I said to the president a very simple thing. We will eliminate the trade deficit with the United States. We intend to do it very quickly. We think it's the right thing to do. And we're going to also eliminate trade barriers, a variety of trade barriers that have been put up unnecessarily. And I think Israel can serve as a model for many countries who ought to do the same. You know, if Gazans want to leave, we want to take them in. And I think this is...
In Afghanistan, in one of the dumbest situations, I think, and maybe the most embarrassing. They don't take anything practically, and yet they send...
Mr. President, do you plan to reduce the tariffs that your government put on Israeli goods, 17%?
On where?
On Israeli goods, the 17%. Do you plan
Well,
to
we're
reduce-
talking about a whole new trade. Maybe not. Maybe not. Don't forget, we help Israel a lot. You know, we give Israel $4 billion a year. That's a lot. Congratulations, by the way. That's pretty good. But we give Israel billions of dollars a year. But no, we take good care of our friends, and we don't take care of our enemies. We're not taking care of our enemies anymore, but we do take care of our friends.
Ready, folks? Ready.
I spoke this morning with the Prime Minister of Japan, and we had a very good conversation. They're coming. And I said, one thing, you're going to have to open up your country, because we sold no cars, like 0 cars in Japan, and they sold millions of cars into our country. They don't really take our agriculture, a little bit of it, just to keep us slightly happy. And so we have a great relationship with Japan. We're going to keep it that way, but they're coming in to meet. And now people are copying it. You know, David, you want to tell? People are talking about the Trump plan. Gee, what do we do? With China, as you know, against my statement, they put a 34% tariff on above what their ridiculous tariffs were already. And I said, if that tariff isn't removed by tomorrow at 12 o'clock, we're putting a 50% tariff on above the tariffs that we put on. I have a great relationship with President Xi. I hope it's going to stay that way. I have great respect for China, but they can't do this with just, we're going to have one shot at this. They went wild. China went wild. And the money they make is ridiculous, okay? It's just not going to happen. And hopefully we'll get along with China. If we do, that's great. And if we don't, that's okay too. But we can't let that continue, because that's an abuse. We're going to get fair deals and good deals with every country. And if we don't, we're going to have nothing to do with them. They're not going to be allowed to participate in the United States.
Mr. President,
Hold it. Just relax. We have time. This gentleman is all day long.
How do you ensure, Mr. President, that these tariffs don't drive U.S. trading partners into the hands of the Chinese?
I'm not worried about it. If they want to be in the hands of the U.S., they don't want to be in the hands of the Chinese. And, the Chinese have turned out to be really not very good at that. People that are with us, they're with us. But we cannot be taken advantage of any longer.
And maybe you could elaborate as well a little bit on not providing tariffs on Russia, sir.
So the reason we're not talking about tariffs with Russia is because we're not doing business essentially with Russia, because they're in a war. And the countries that really took advantage of us are now saying, please negotiate. You know why? Because they're getting beaten badly because of what's happening. But it's the only chance we're going to have to reset the table on trade. And when we do, we're going to come out unbelievably well. We're going to have a strong country economically again. And we're going to have those factories that are empty all over the United States.
Mr. President, you said it could take 2 years to get American manufacturing fully up to speed in response to these tariffs. What happens in the meantime? Should Americans be prepared potentially for years of disruption?
We have now $7 trillion. Think of this, $7 trillion of commitments from companies wanting to go in, from Apple to many, many companies.
But that takes time.
Many from Taiwan. What?
It takes time to
Of course it takes time. Well, are you asking me a question, or are you telling me? Yeah, it takes time. You know, you got to build a thing called a factory. You have to build your energy. You have to do a lot of things. I'm giving them energy. You know, we're going to let them build their own power plants. They'll be their own. Essentially, they're going to be in charge of the power plant because our power is not reliable enough. You have a grid that's old and susceptible to a lot of things, including bombing and weather and a lot of other things. And we're going to give them record timing in terms of approvals of electric plants.